This is Signals from the Deep, episode 24. Joining us on the road from Denver, Colorado, here's your hosts, Piper Shaw and JT Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Signals from the Deep. Let's just dive right in. That sound that you just heard was the sound that we heard for about 2 hours on Thursday night on the tarmac after the Kraken's game in Chicago. JT, I will be hearing that sound in my nightmares.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Not the favorite. Obviously, there's not a whole lot that you can do in those situations, sitting on the tarmac, waiting for the plane to get fixed. Obviously, that sound a little annoying, but at the end of the day, everything worked out, and not a situation you have to deal with that often. So we're thankful for that.
So what happened, folks, we were told is that the plane after the Chicago game had some kind of a technical issue with like the computer system or something like that. So they were troubleshooting it for quite a while when we were ready to leave and try to head off to Vegas for a practice day on Friday and all that, but we ended up having to get off of the plane, back onto buses, and to a different hotel. It was kind of a scramble because we didn't know exactly what was going on. But shout out Baxi. We've been talking about Baxi on the pod quite a bit lately because not an ideal situation, and everything, everybody obviously was a little bit irritated by the sound, but also after that game and just tired. About 2 a.m, we got off the plane, got onto buses and into another hotel. So, I think he handled it as good as you can when something like that goes awry.
Yeah, it can't be easy to find enough hotels for everyone. Also, to get the buses back to, the FBO as well. So that was another issue that you'd have to deal with. But, and even then scheduling the next flight to get it for the next day. So there's a lot of things, obviously, that he had to do there. And, obviously things are great when you don't notice anything, right? And then he has to come in and, save the day on a time like that. So you got to give your shout outs to Baxi for that too.
Even getting food on the plane for the next day, because the flight attendants were telling me that they book the catering months in advance, which totally makes sense. But all things considered, I felt like that sound is still going to be haunting me. It was just playing nonstop, but it all worked out pretty well. So.
Yeah, I think the other hard part is you just don't know what's going on, right? Like they give you a little bit of updates as we're going, and then as the time keeps going by and you're looking at your, I'll say watch, but it was more just looking at your phone and seeing what time it started to be at, and you're like, eventually, are we just going to get off the plane and go to a hotel? Like this is going to be even a later arrival into Vegas, and that's eventually what happened. Obviously, they have to take their time to figure out, obviously, what was wrong, and then Baxi figuring out the hotels, and just a weird situation, one that I don't think I've ever been in a situation exactly like that, never having to get off the plane. I think weather is something that you always have to deal with flying. There's been times where flights have been delayed or they've been pushed back, or just right away you just can't fly and you just know you're going to stay an extra night. So it's kind of ahead of time. But, when you're getting to the plane and you have the expectation to take off and you don't, obviously, that's things people deal with all the time going to the airport, but at those late hours it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, they said it was like some kind of computer issue or something with the plane, and they were troubleshooting it. But I thought it was funny, like Brandon Montour was pacing the aisles. He's like, do we want to take off if there's a questionable issue? Like, should we just get off the plane? Valid point.
Oh, it's definitely fair, and obviously they did the right thing there, and I think also at the end the pilots ended up timing out or would have timed out during the flight as well. So I think that kind of came into an issue as well. So again, something we don't have to do daily or weekly or every trip. That's something that doesn't happen. But I think that makes it a little bit easier to put up with it when it does happen, because it's not something that you're doing every single trip or every single road trip. And thankfully we have a good flight crew, and obviously Baxi, one more shout out for getting the hotels, getting everything situated, and making sure everybody was taken care of.
So I do fear we may have buried the lead a little bit here when it comes to Kraken news in the last week, because there was a big trade, which we found out as we were just sitting down to eat some pizza at Paisano's in Chicago. Good pizza. We were able to just kind of talk about this right as it was happening. But Will Borgen to the New York Rangers, plus a third-round pick in 2025 and a sixth-round pick in 2026 to the Rangers for Kaapo Kakko, who was a second overall pick in 2019 by the Rangers, coming back to the Seattle Kraken. Huge trade. I mean, people have been saying that might be one of the biggest trades that like our organization has ever made potentially. Just what were your thoughts on this, maybe initially, and now that you've sat with it for a couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is obviously, I mean, you know Will. I've got to know Will as well, so you wish him the best in New York, right? You want to see his career keep going off, especially being an original Kraken, and you know what he's done for the organization, how he's played, and you know, even just moving up in his role and how his career started here in Seattle to, you know, getting all the ice time, being a part of the good run that Seattle had. So you obviously want nothing but the best for him, and you hope that you know, his career flourishes out in New York and can get you know, everything out of this that he needs in his career. And it is a business, right? We did talk about that in the last podcast, that things do happen. Business decisions end up being made. Where are you going to sign Will? Where did he fit with the long-term, having Larson long-term on the right side, having Montour signed long-term on the right side, Vince getting signed, you know, long-term. So when you look at that, it kind of pushes what role can Will be in. So I think the business side, it ended up making sense. And, you know, unfortunately it happened birthday, right? For Will as well.
Well,
but
the day before, because his birthday was on Thursday. But yeah.
It's right there. Weird news, right? But at the other side, when you look at the Kraken and, you know, what they're able to get, you know, from the deal as, you know, a player that, you know, has all the skills and the tools, just based on, you know, watching him, it's more about, you know, putting it all together. And, you know, he's played a lot of games in the National Hockey League. I think at the time it was 330, and he had 131 points at the time of the trade. And so he's played. He can understand that. He's got a lot of skill. He's got some size, and it's just putting it all together, right? And sometimes you just need that new start. Things weren't going the greatest in New York for him. He did have a very good year with the kid line out there, and things went down in comparison to what it was this year. But I think the tools are all there. I think you understand why the Kraken wanted to go out and get a player like Kaapo. And again, it's all about putting it together, right? How can he develop? Can he develop better out in Seattle than he was in New York? And I think the other side of it is you don't have Everly, right? So you're missing a top six winger. And that was something that Kaapo can bring. He can be that top six guy. He can play on your power play. He has the skills to do that. And, you know, how do you get the best version of this player? And I think, you know, that's what, Ron Francis is, you know, asking of the coaching staff, right? How can we pull the best out of this guy? We've seen in flashes in New York how good of a player he can be. How do we get him to play like that on a consistent basis? So for the trade, I don't know if you do grades, you know, A, B, whatever, but I think those things are tough to do in the moment, right? You got to see how everything plays out. But I think in the mindset of, was Will going to be here long term? Was it going to be a situation that he was happy with, you know, being in the 5-6 slotted role, you know, just with where he plays and who's signed ahead of him? And then, you know, needing a skilled top six winger that can, you know, pick up some of, you know, the goal scoring droughts that the Kraken are having right now. So for me, I think it's a good trade. It is a big trade, one we haven't really seen during the year. Obviously, we've seen some at the trade deadline and, you know, moving guys out, especially in the first year. But to make that kind of a trade while the season's still going on and, you know, the Kraken are still trying to make their push.
Definitely. I just want to go back and echo what you said at the beginning of that, too, with just giving Will Borgen some love as an original Kraken. Everybody knows that I was a big Will Borgen fan because we went to college together, and he's got such a great family. Like, I know his mom, and so wish him nothing but the best. And I think he will just continue to flourish. And to your point too, about trying to pull what they can out of players that come to this team, you know, that's something that has been somewhat of a trend for the Kraken that they've been able to do, particularly with Ellie Tolvanen. And that's something that, you know, Tolvi was telling me before that Chicago game, the day that Kaapo joined the team, that he was like, it kind of reminds me of what happened to me. He was a first round pick of the Nashville Predators. There was a lot of pressure and expectation on him to be a certain kind of player. And these guys are getting drafted when they're 18 years old. By the time they're 25 years old, they evolve as people, but also, you know, their skills, and there's different systems and conversations all throughout their career. Obviously, that's not new information to you, but he said that this situation kind of reminded him of, you know, what happened to him and the fresh start that he got with Seattle when the Kraken picked him up on waivers. And on a personal note, he also said that when he first got to the Kraken, it was Jonas Donskoy, who was not playing, obviously, but he was a fellow Finnish guy, and Jonas really made an effort to make sure that Ellie felt welcomed on the team and like he was part of the family and kind of had that shared cultural connection and always inviting him to lunch and stuff. So Ellie said that was going to be really important to him to make sure that he did that for Kaapo Kakko as well, because I don't think we mentioned, but Kakko is also Finnish. So we now have 2 Finns on the team. The Kraken also have a representative now in the Four Nations face-off. So that is exciting. Somebody to watch over that break there in February and cheer for. But also on that note, Ellie and Kakko did play together in the 2019 World Juniors Championships. They won a gold medal for Team Finland, and Kaapo had the game-winning goal in the gold medal game. So for what it's worth, we have a good track record with World Juniors Championship stars on our team.
That is
most notably Jordan Everly,
very true.
But others as well. So yeah, it's a little early to tell, I feel like, of what, Kaapo is really going to bring to the team. And through these first couple games, obviously the Kraken have not been playing their best hockey as a team. But what is it that of his skill set in particular that makes him kind of like a unique ad, theoretically?
Yeah, I think you're right on. It's hard, especially when you're flying across country. It's a whirlwind of emotions from being, in New York, they're flying to Dallas and then hopping on a flight, getting to Chicago, you're playing in a game. It all just happens so fast. So I think it takes a minute for you to fully get, I guess, used to whether it's system wise, who you're playing with. It takes time. But, we have seen flashes of even in the games where that hasn't gone their way. I mean, in the Chicago game, he did a nice little toe drag, pulled the shot and rang one off the crossbar. And so you can see he's got a good shot. He's got a good release. His size is also something that, you can't teach size. I wish I could have been taught size and somehow just grown and, being able to be a bigger presence. He's not afraid to use that as well as some big hits in the last game as well, or where even in the Chicago game where, he's out there finishing guys off on the boards, making sure that, you're separating the man from the puck. And I think it's also a skill set to be out in front of the net. He's got good hands where he can be in tight. And that's an area where the Kraken have not been great at, when they're not playing their best. It's usually to the perimeter. They stay to the outside. So if you can get somebody to get inside, whether that's to screen the goalie, get a tip, but loose pucks around the net. And, he definitely has the finishing ability to be able to put the puck in the back of the net. It's more just how do you find that on a consistent basis? And, who can you put on a line with them to drag that out every single night, right? And to get it more consistently. And I think as a team, that's what they're working on as well. So, finding the right combinations. But I think definitely when you look at his ability to play a skill game, his ability to not shy away from a physical game, just based on size as well. Obviously, you don't need him running guys through the boards or, take himself out of the play. The real thing for him is he has that skill. He can be that top 6 type of guy. And, when you get out there, especially on the power play, to go out there and make plays. And I think that should be the message, obviously, from the coaching staff, which we have heard. It's just go play, right?
Right.
He's not going to understand every part of the systems that they're trying to run in one day or one game or a couple of practices. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to build that chemistry and to not worry about making a mistake, right? I feel like at times, especially when things aren't going well, you start to overanalyze, you start to think the game and you want to do your best, right? And you're trying so hard that it actually ends up taking away from you. So at the end of the day, especially coming to a new team, you want to impress, you want to be, everything that people are talking about him, right? And to just go out and make sure you just play the game. You're obviously a skilled hockey player, a smart hockey player. You've made it this far, and to just rely on what's got you here.
So I figure on this note, we got a question from a listener, and I feel like it kind of fits around this conversation. So I figure we can jump to that. So this comes from Nikki Arn, or at Kraken Hockey Guy on Blue Sky. Nikki says, "Hi, Piper. I'm excited JT is on. I'd love to hear his insights on player development. The young guys seem to have so much pressure on them, as mentioned by John and JT during the Chicago game," he wrote yesterday. But doubt seems to hover around guys that aren't performing immediately. How can guys like Shane and Maddie stay realistic?
I think there's 2 ways. First way is obviously just the coaching staff, right? Being in constant communication of, what's expected and what do they want to see versus having the player guess, right? And thinking, well, I should be scoring, or I need to do this. What is that player's role? And if you can get a defined role of what the coach wants out of you, you're going to be a lot better as a player, and it's going to be less on your mind about
trying to find that identity.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things for me, I always remember, obviously was not in the same situation as say a Maddie or a Shane as well, but playing on the fourth line, talking to the coaches, and I'm like, hey, you don't need to go score, but what we do need from you is we want you to go shut down this line. We want you to not get scored on, and want you to have productive shifts, get the puck in, wear their other team lines down. And if we score, great. But if we didn't, it was still a win for us. Like, we knew that our goal was not necessarily, obviously we want to score. Everybody wants to go out and score, but it was defined to us. So we weren't stressing about the fact that we didn't score a goal in a couple of games, or we hadn't been on the score sheet, but we were doing our job in other areas, whether it was on the
managing the momentum.
Correct. And be able to do that. So, as a guy like Maddie or Shane, it's, getting in there and talking to them about what's exactly expected of them, and it makes playing the game a lot easier. And I would say also, look at the line mates, look at the veterans in the room, to just talk to them and understand that there is going to be a little bit of a roller coaster when it comes to production at the National Hockey League level, and you're not going to score every game, right? And it's tough when you come from either juniors, or you come from the American Hockey League or the NCAA, and you could start playing in the National Hockey League where you were the best player on your team, or you were scoring on a nightly basis. And that's not to say that you can't, or people don't come into the National Hockey League and do that right away, because they obviously, we see it all the time with the young superstars in the league. But that's not the normal case, right? There's going to be times where, hey, you go 10 games without a goal, or you go, same thing, 10 games without a point at all. Mm-hmm. And it can be difficult when you've been so used to, I don't know, whether it's being the guy or being on the score sheet. So I think between the coaching staff and between, having good leadership and good veterans to kind of walk, young players through that process, it's important, right? And I think they've done a good job, especially even looking back to Shane Wright being scratched, right? And obviously there was conversations with the coaching staff, what they exactly were, I don't know. But at the same time, when you get scratched, especially when you've played every game, usually, a coach will bring you aside. They're going to tell you why. They're going to tell you what they want out of you. And then you look at how Shane reacted to that afterwards. Obviously, the points are great, but I think even just from a standpoint of how he's played, whether it's been defensively, in the face-off circle, just making the right reads, the smarter plays, and just was playing a little bit more free on the back half of coming back into the lineup after being scratched. So, there's little things like that. I think it's all about communication. And again, at the end of the day, I think there's got to be a little self-reflection as a player, but at the same time, if you have it's a support system, right? You guys are a team, you're a family, and whether it's the players or the coaches as well, just making sure that you help those younger players, kind of go through something different that maybe they haven't gone through, so far in their career.
So I want to go back to something that you just said. How much do you think kind of like a schedule shift makes a difference too, when you look at a player like Maddie Beniers, who came straight from college hockey, where you're playing 2 games a week? You are playing 2 games a week. You are now playing 82 games in the regular season alone. Obviously, junior hockey and American League hockey, different kinds of workload and schedules and all that. But how much do you think that can factor into just the sheer amount of time you are on the ice and balancing like your workouts and all those things with it too?
I mean, I think, yeah, it definitely can, especially the first year. Obviously, it is a big difference when you talk about it, but also at the same time, when you're in college, you have to go to classes. There's other things that you're doing, even though you're not just playing the game. So maybe mentally, maybe it's a little more taxing at times, to be in the classroom and worrying about this test, or worrying about, what's going on in school wise. So there's balances. I mean, both are hard in their own right. Obviously, I think the travel schedule's crazy when you come to the NHL, when you're not used to
you don't say. We didn't start this podcast with a disturbing plane sound
and back-to-backs and
missed practice on Friday. We're back-to-back.
It's different, right? Like, and you're moving time zones a lot, and it can be a factor. You try not to. I mean, that's what the training's for. That's what you're getting yourself ready for. Obviously, you have to take care of yourself. That comes to, how do you get the fluids afterwards? Are you eating right? Are you getting enough sleep? Which sometimes you can't control. Well, we've seen that as we had plane issues, right?
Do that. So I can't even do that.
It can be difficult, right? But I think at the end of the day, when you look at the differences between, say, juniors and the NCAA. Obviously, the biggest one for the NCAA is just the number of games, right? In juniors, you play a larger schedule than the college hockey. I think college hockey, like 32 games or something around there. Jumping, just the sheer volume can be a difference maker, but then also just getting used to that. So again, that goes into, that's why the teams have, the strength and conditioning staff. You have nutritionists, you have all of these people surrounding these players, especially so when they're coming from different situations, that they get the information and the knowledge they need. You can't force somebody to eat correctly, as I know, because I don't.
You've never eaten vegetable in your life?
Yeah. Oh, one time, a couple times.
One time?
I had one salad.
You had one salad one time in your entire life?
Correct.
What kind of salad was it? How old
salad,
were you?
Like 13.
Dude.
And I'm never having
13?
one again.
What are you, 34 now?
Yes.
Yeah, you just never, you're unwilling to take a bite.
How bad was that Caesar salad that you've never had another one?
I'm sure it was good. Everybody else ate it. It just is not for me. I do not need. Okay,
you should have like a steak wedge salad with like some bacon on it or something like that. The whole
conversation wasn't to go at me now.
Well, you opened yourself up to it.
The whole point is you can put all these things in front of them. It still is up to the player to make their decisions, and you just put the information the same way with when you talk about coaching, right? You can give them the X's and O's, you can give them the tendencies, but it ends up being on the players to go out and do what they need to do when the time comes.
All right, I want to switch gears a little bit. Last episode, JT, we were literally just chirping about intermission interviews and how it would be so refreshing for someone to jump on with some honesty. Well, in Chicago, in the first intermission, Yanni Gourde gave a Gatorade shower of an interview that has been all over the place. After that happened, I immediately, because sometimes on the road, depending on how everything is like routed to you guys, you can't necessarily always hear the intermission interview. So the second he walked away from me, I grabbed my credential and talked to our utility. I'm like, I need the fastest way to get up to the broadcast booth, and like booked it upstairs, because I was like, John and JT have to hear this interview before we go back on air. But just after you did hear it, your thoughts on Yanni being willing to be critical and honest on, a setting like that. I know it's hard when you're also getting a camera shoved in your face, and the interview is not for me, Piper, or for you, JT. It's for the fans that are watching, So what did you think about that?
I mean, the first word that came to my mind was refreshing, right? We did talk about how it's usually about North getting pucks in deep, and I mean, they're all true. Like, all these things are necessary to win a game, but you rarely see players have that kind of, whether, emotion and being truly honest about the team's play. And, I thought it was a refreshing interview. I thought that it was spot on, right? Like, I think just didn't want to sugarcoat how the team was playing in that period. Didn't come out and play their best. And when you have a guy, I mean, for me, those are the leaders, right? Those are the ones you're going into the locker room. He's going to go in there and talk, the same way he talked in that interview.
Probably harsher, I would think.
Maybe
I think probably more emotion.
Choice words. But when you have a person that's willing to say those things, obviously it's not on an everyday basis. You don't want to just bash your team. But I think given how this last
week or so
of games have gone, I mean, you throw in the big win versus Boston, but I think you can look at the rest of the homestand, even the Florida game where you sneak out a point. It was a sneaking out of a point. They didn't play their best, so haven't been playing their best hockey. So that's something that I think probably had been building to that point, and it was different. It was something that I think a lot of the fans are seeing as what we've seen on social media. The reaction was all positive, right? Like, why don't we have somebody on our team like that would say, how Yanni did? Or
yeah, it was kind of funny to see all the Rangers fans being like, we should have got Yanni in the trade.
Exactly. And, I just think that it was good. I think it's honest. I think the fans, I mean, obviously you can see what's going on in the game as well. So I think it's refreshing to hear, from a player that they're not happy with how they're playing, or that this period wasn't good enough. They need to go out and play better in the second period, and to kind of talk about, different areas. And I think the one thing too, you came up right away, and we're talking about, he made a great save of the puck. It was Joey Anderson. one of my other good friends had an empty net.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Had a good empty net, and Yanni comes flying out of nowhere and makes a huge save, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you try to give him credit for that and talk about, but he didn't really want to give himself credit on that. Want to talk about why are we in that position anyways? We're too much of scrambling.
Right.
We got to get that out of our game. And I thought that was another cool moment because like that was a great save. Like he came in.
It was a great play.
Saved a sure goal that was going in, but it didn't even matter. Didn't want any of the positive side. He really wanted to focus on what needed to be out of the team's game and how the team was playing as a whole. And I thought it was focused on team. I like that it wasn't an individual player, right? He was talking about the group as a collective, because that's really what it is. And it was a great interview, and the response was fantastic. I thought his wife's response was probably the best one that I saw on I think it was Instagram. That one was good.
Yeah.
I believe it said, what was it? Yanni when he sees the credit card statement this month, and then it will.
So, in case
hilarious.
you missed the interview, we thought we would just play you the first question here. You can find the rest of the interview online, but to be honest, the first question, I think, or his first answers really sums up the energy of it that he kind of carried through the rest of it.
Well, Yanni, it's great to see you back out there with the team. How would you assess your team's work through that first 20?
Unacceptable. Awful. We need better. Too many turnovers. We're lacking reload. We're diving in. They get way too many opportunities. This has to stop. We need to find a better way.
We have to find a better way. I love going back to what you said. Yeah, so Marie Gourde put on her story. It was like when Yanni sees the credit card bill. When Yanni sees the credit card bill, he goes, unacceptable, awful, which is hilarious. What are you doing, JT? JT's looking at something.
I was looking it up. I was making sure it said, Yanni when he looks at this month's credit card statement.
Yeah.
That was good.
Unacceptable. Awful. You were when you were texting me, you were like, when somebody has their Christmas decorations up before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. That is awful.
Unacceptable. I do that though because
no,
I am not home enough during the holiday season to get to actually enjoy it, and because my husband travels too, it's like we had to celebrate Christmas on December 15th because that is when we were gonna have the opportunity because we're both just jumping around all the time. So
when do you take them down
for December?
I take them down whenever I have the bandwidth to do so.
See, you just need to get ones that stay up all the time then.
Okay, like what?
I don't know, like LED ones. You can change them orange for Halloween or something like.
Oh, well, lights. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't have that many Christmas decorations to begin with anyway, so it's really not. It's not that big of a deal. But that being said, just going back to the Yanni interview and kind of that conversation, I was wondering, from your perspective, obviously when they answer these questions normally, it's a little bit more of an X's and O's, and it's a this and it's a that. But, we always say hockey is a game of emotion. How does being able to have that kind of emotion kind of factor into how you can execute the X's and O's? Does that make sense?
No. So relay that to me again.
It does not make sense. Well, okay. We always talk about how hockey is this game of emotion, but rarely from our team do I feel like we see that when they kind of come and talk to us. And is that at all concerning to you when they're talking about not being able to execute the X's and O's and getting pucks deep, because you need that kind of fire, I assume, to push it?
I mean, I think everybody shows it in different ways though too. I think I would say even just go to the Chicago game, maybe you might not get that same answer out of a Vince Dunn if he did the interview, but when you see the emotion of him jumping in to help out Stevenson when Murphy was trying to go after him to fight, and Vince Dunn said enough's enough, and there's emotion that way of jumping into the fight, literally in that sense. So I think each player is different, right? I think that Yanni ended up being the perfect storm as far as the interview is concerned. I don't think that every player is going to show their emotion the same way. We know that Yanni plays the game with his heart on his sleeve, so I think that definitely plays into him being able to give that type of interview. And I do think, though, at a point where, especially when things aren't going well, you use that, I don't want to say emotion, but also at the same time, it's pride, right? Of how you know how to play and how the team should be playing, and using that to, like you said, when you talk about the X's and O's, just go out and do what you're supposed to do, right? Get stay connected, be on the forecheck. Yanni brought that part up. They're not reloading properly. They weren't getting enough. I mean, tactically, they weren't getting enough of pressure onto the defense in Chicago. So there's little things like that, but I also think it just comes from, inside at a certain point where you may not necessarily show it as far as words or may not show it as a hit, but I think you just kind of end up taking it upon yourself and having that self-pride to buckle up and basically go out there and do what your job is, right? Like, and that is the X's and O's part, and to be a team and to go play. So it's definitely hard. I think there's definitely interesting spots throughout a season where, the ups and downs can definitely change the emotion of the game and how you go into each game. But, I think at this point when things aren't going your way, it's about the leadership group and, getting everybody to come in and follow and play the right game.
Yeah. I that definitely answers my question, but I didn't even mean like the emotion in the interview. I just mean like the emotion, like on the ice and in the room, because it's just like, if you don't hate to lose, if you don't care, then you're probably, I would imagine, less compelled to go out there and execute,
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest thing is you can't speak for every player on what their, driving motivation is in the game. But I would say that every player I know, losing is not fun, right? Like we know what happens. You have to accept that you're going to lose, right? You're not going to go 82-0. You can hope for it, but at the end of the day, there's going to be times where you do lose. So in every locker room that I've been in, losing is not fun, especially when you lose multiple games in a row or, things just aren't going your way. Obviously, that's how it is right now, and got to hear a little bit of that in Montour's interview as well about the team and, quiet, and you need to get back to having fun. And what is fun is winning, right? So I think to get to that point, obviously you got to come together as a team, and, whether that's a players only meeting, is that the coaches coming in and talking and having more meetings that way. There's definitely ways to get things back on track. And, I just think that everybody has that a sense where, again, it is not fun to lose. So as much as, it may not look like it at times, right? Or you may say like, oh, are they trying it? Obviously, everybody wants to go out and win every single game, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't happen that way. So it's just finding, what that room, how do we come together as a room? And it's different from year to year, right? Even if you have a lot of the same players, guys coming back in, there's going to be a new dynamic. You bring in, new players into the offseason. So it may change how the group looks, or how, what they did last year may not work this year, and it may just take a little bit of time to figure that out.
The Montour interview that JT is referencing was a pregame availability ahead of the game against Vegas. And it was a really great conversation. But yeah, he made the point of, he's just like, I just feel like we've been silent. Like we've been quiet. Like the bench is quiet, whether things are going well or not going well. And he's like, we just need to be having fun. Like, he's like, we play hockey for a job.
Yeah.
Like, we should be having fun, even if we're losing. Like, that should be part of like the fuel. And that was also refreshing. I don't think that made it on TV among all of our things, but that was a nice thing to hear from him as well. A different kind of emotion that was motivating than Yanni's. It was a little bit more positive, obviously. But yeah, and to your point that you bring in new guys and the dynamic changes, the impact that Brandon Montour has had on the room and the culture of the team immediately is not only intentional, but really valuable, I think, from what I've observed. But anyway, any final thoughts on that conversation?
No, I mean, I think it's good. I think every player's got their own way of showing, and, we brought up the two that you would say are probably more vocal when it comes to
True.
With Yanni and Monty as well. But I think you just can look up and down the room and just watch even as how people play. And a guy like Larson, who may not be the most chatty person in the interview, but you watch him how he plays, and that's how he can lead and how he shows his emotion throughout. So I think it's an interesting dynamic, and I think that's what makes locker rooms so special, but also crazy at the same time. You have all these people from different backgrounds, and what motivates this person may not motivate the next person, and it's all about finding that, right? And finding the balance of how do we get the best out of everybody. And, that's something that they're going through right now, right? And how can they play as a team consistently? And, again, it may not be the same as what it was last year. Last year, now you have a new coaching staff too. Throw that into the mix where things are different. So yeah, I think it's only a matter of time, right? They're not happy with how they're playing. I think it's clear to see that through not only the coaching staff, but also through the players and their interviews. And, that's a positive sign in my eyes, right? When they're outward with that we're not happy with how we're playing is a better sign for things to move forward.
So this episode is coming out the week of Christmas. So we do want to say happy holidays to everybody out there, no matter what you celebrate. But JT, what did you ask for Christmas?
What did I ask?
Because we had a conversation at 3 a.m. in the hallway last night where you were hooting about how if your wife doesn't specifically ask for what she wants, she doesn't get anything. So that had me thinking, okay, JT, what did you ask for?
Well, okay. Let's just backtrack for a second. I did end up getting her gift. I said, I need a list. Like, if you give me a list of what you want, I'm going to go get it. But if you say nothing, then that means nothing.
So the thought that counts is not an ideology that you subscribe to.
That's not one that, no.
Okay.
So I did get her a Christmas gift. Can't say it obviously because she might listen to it, but
well, this is coming out after Christmas.
She already gave me the list, so she knows what it is. But
and this does come out after Christmas.
Oh, all right, never mind. All right, let me go back. So what I asked for a new hat.
A specific one?
Like a winter hat, but I don't know who makes it. It's a nice one.
But like, was it like, I want this hat, or were you just like, I want a warm hat?
Yeah, a warm hat.
You want a warm hat?
A black warm hat. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I asked for new cologne because I lost one this year already, so that's good. And
you lost one?
Yep. And then I asked, what else did I ask for? I asked for a pearl necklace. I don't think I'm gonna get that. And then I asked for a Rolex, so I don't think I'm gonna get either of the last two. But I'm gonna get something. I'm probably going to get the first two.
A pearl necklace, like with a single pearl, or
no,
like a chain of pearls?
The whole necklace with pearls on it.
Oh, stylish.
I feel like you could probably, is it a specific one, or could you just like go to a pawn shop or raid somebody's grandma's house? Or is that a stylistic? Am I behind on the trends?
There was no specific thing. So I think I learned is like, you ask for a couple crazy things. Mm-hmm. So then you're like, they're not going to get those, but then you're going to get the other ones for sure.
Okay. I guess I'm more just confused of why the pearl necklace for you stylistically is like a choice. You are unique. You have a unique sense of fashion.
Well, we're going to see. We'll see when, or if I get one, what it's going to look like.
We'll see if you get one. If you get one, then we're going to have to talk about that on the podcast on the next episode. And
I don't think
have a picture.
I don't think I'm getting it. Again, I like to throw a couple crazy ideas in there to make my other ideas look less crazy.
Does Lexi ever go off script? You don't go off script.
She will every now and then.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Grant, I'd rather just get what I want. Here you go.
Grant, what about you?
My wife and I discussed what do we need versus what do we want this year.
Okay, that's not fun.
I know.
That is not fun.
But I got a new vacuum because it's my job to vacuum in the house. And I love this vacuum. It's really great because we live in a townhome, so we have a lot of stairs. So I got a vacuum that's really easy to bring up and down stairs. And it's a plug-in vacuum because we have cats. And so those like stick vacuums just don't do the job when it comes to pet hair. So I'm very happy. I've already used it. It's wonderful. I have bought things off script for my wife because we said we weren't going to get each other anything. I already know she's gotten me something different. So I had to get her something as well. So I got her a nice set of earrings that hopefully she likes.
Are they pearl?
Hopefully she likes. I see. I don't like playing that game.
Are they pearl?
Well, no, they're not. I say hopefully, and I'm hoping now that we've been married for quite a few years that I've kind of figured out what she wants. So we'll see. I mean, I am taking a big risk here. So.
Yeah, when she looks at you and you got those eyes, when she opens it and she's like, "Oh, it's great," and then you can tell that she don't like it, then you're gonna feel not so great.
Well, I kept the receipt, so if I need to take it back, it's fine.
That's a good.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a good call, but I don't know. I think I just fundamentally disagree with JT. Like, gifts to me are not about getting a thing or giving a thing. It's like just about thinking of people and being thought of, even if it's something that like you don't love. Which, as I said, my husband and I did Christmas on the 15th or whatever because that's like when we could. And he got me a incredible hair dryer that he actually contacted our like Kraken broadcast stylist about because I was complaining I've been continually complaining that my hairdryer sucks because I've had it since I was literally 12 years old. But I don't know. I just didn't want to spend money on it. I don't really care about hair. I don't really know anything about hair. I was like, whatever. But I would have to have it on so hot to dry my hair that I would be like sweating, and it would make my hair frizzy by the end because it was so hot, and it would take forever because it was just so old. So he literally bought me like this it's not a Dyson hairdryer because I actually don't like those, and I don't let our hairstylist use that one because the frequency of the sound it makes like literally gives me tinnitus because I have hearing damage despite being young because of our profession. And going to so many concerts, I'm sure, since I was young. But anyway, he got me an incredible hairdryer that I did not ask for, that I honestly didn't even realize that I needed despite my continued complaining.
Well, that's the thoughtfulness of it. I think that really hits the nail on the head of,
changed my life.
Yeah, it's something you wouldn't buy for yourself. And you've already shown that, since 12 years old, you're not going to buy this for yourself. So the fact that he bought that for you is very nice.
Yeah, I love it so much that I texted Allison and I was like, hey, do you have a hairdryer that you love? And she was like, no, why? I was like, well, I have one for you. And I was like, I need to get the link and send it to her. So I'll have to check in with her if she ends up ordering it. But it's excellent, and I'm very happy
disagree.
about that.
You guys go have fun looking for gifts, okay?
You know what else my husband got me for Christmas, which is sitting right in front of JT and I right now. JT, you want to explain what this is?
It's a rechargeable hand warmer. It also, you can like charge your phone with it too. I use those all the time because it's cold in rinks, and I think I helped on that one.
JT actually sent my husband the link to these hand warmers that I've known that you've had, and I think Allison maybe has.
Allison has a set as well.
And ironically, I'm the person who lives at ice level, who is most exposed to the cold.
It gets cold, so hey, it's a smart thing to have. You don't have to throw away the I don't know, just like the normal ones,
like the packets.
Like hot hands or whatever. The sand. Well, you know what? You guys are much better than me, okay?
No,
how about that?
No, it's not that. Definitely not that. But I mean, I will say that one of my gifts was a JT Brown special. And as the morning that we were recording this is just before the Colorado game and my dreaded Colorado wind tunnel. So I got to charge these puppies when we were done recording.
Hey, well, you guys are in my hometown, so I got to ask, now that you're there, I don't know if you have any time or anything like that. Is there a place that you guys go out, and is there like a restaurant that you love while you're in Colorado or anything like that?
Grant, unfortunately, JT and I are both like the two people on the entire travel party that literally don't go anywhere or leave our rooms ever. And we both like to get off the plane, order DoorDash, and
pretty much, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start giving you recommendations for restaurants you can DoorDash that are a little better than normal.
I went to Snarf's one time. One of our great videographers, Marcus Allen, producers, he is from Denver too. And so he has always recommended Snarf's. It's like sandwiches.
It's delicious.
I've had that.
Yep.
I do want to throw out one thing. I do, for the stocking, I get things like that I know she likes or would need or use. So that's kind of, I mean, it's not a present, but it's also the stocking. I got to get all the little things.
It is a present. If you're getting somebody something that you thought of, that's a present.
I don't get a list of things that I'd need to put in her stocking. Now, do I put the same thing in the stocking almost every year? Yes. But
she likes them.
Yes. So I at least that part, so I don't get all this hate on social media.
Not hate.
Yeah,
also,
no,
if that's what works for
way.
you, if that's what works for you,
I
and that's what works for Lexi, then you're not doing anything wrong.
I already know what's coming my way as soon as this thing, like, I am going to turn off notifications on my phone. They're already on silent.
I think it's also just surprising because I know how thoughtful you can be. You bring me 2 little orange Starbursts. I don't underestimate yourself. Don't sell yourself short, JT.
Maybe next year.
Next year. I'm excited too because this is going to be the first holiday that I get to spend with my family of any kind since 2019. I've literally not seen my family, my in-laws or my family on a holiday, any kind since before the pandemic. So when we had multiple days off over this Christmas break, my stepmom was like, "You are coming home. I'm booking you on a red-eye flight from Denver to North Carolina." So me and Forslund are taking a red-eye after the Denver game. So anyway, on that note, on all of these festive conversations, we've got a couple of interviews with the Kraken players for all of you. It's a variety and a mashup of the guys talking about different family traditions around the holidays, and just kind of what a holiday was like for them growing up. So again, we want to wish you guys all very happy holiday season. Thank you so much for, engaging with the Kraken hockey community, listening to Signals from the Deep, and tuning in to every Kraken Hockey Network broadcast. So we appreciate you all and wish you nothing but the best. Hey, and before we go, if you want to give us a Christmas gift or just a holiday gift, feel free to leave us a 5-star review. On Apple Podcasts. You could write us a little note. You could chirp JT if you want. You could roast me if you want. Chestnuts roasted by an open fire, whatever. But on that note, enjoy a little holiday cheer from your favorite Kraken players, and we will see you on the next episode of Signals from the Deep.
I always go down there for Christmas time. We don't have a lot of time over Christmas to go back home, especially on the East Coast. So spending time with them over Christmas is great, and I usually see them for a couple days before the season starts.
Christmas probably being the biggest one. Presents and putting cookies out and carrots out, all the above. It's just, it's still now we're, using it with our family. Yeah, it's exciting to be on the other end of the Christmas as opposed to being a kid on Christmas.
It was huge. Our family are pretty big on both sides, so the parties and the holidays were a lot of fun. A lot of family member, and just try to be there for one another and love those family gatherings. Whenever convenient, we try to have Will or Matty over, so they feel like they have people for them too. So.
I mean, obviously a big family, so a lot of food. My parents always try to make an event out of the holidays and family and friends over, and try to make it as normal as possible nowadays when everyone's in town, because you don't get many opportunities to do it, so it's cool.
Oh, they're always fun. Christmas is probably the biggest one for us. Just getting together with family and friends was the biggest thing. As a kid, and you're busy with sports and school, so when you get time to kind of just relax and be around, your family and your friends, that's the biggest thing. Obviously, you get little gifts and things, but just having that time together, means the world. And as you get older, you always look back to those certain times where, little things make you laugh, or certain things that happened. And then as you get older, you start losing different, pieces of your family because people get older. So then you have those memories to look back on.
Signals from the Deep is the official podcast of your Seattle Kraken and is a proud member of the Kraken Hockey Network. Hosted by Piper Shaw and JT Brown. Music composed by Benny Dravars. Production by Grant Beery. Have a question for the show? Send an email to signals@seattlekraken.com or call the hotline at 206-279-7810. Your message could be featured on an upcoming episode.